Hey guys, Professor Bell, Comic Book University, and I am Iron Man, issue number 1. Okay, in reality, I'm Batman. But the point is, this comic book, this was actually a really fun comic book, guys, getting right into it. I enjoyed this. I know this isn't going to be for everybody. That's on you. But what I will say is, if you're looking for a comic book, it's going to be a bunch of short stories, maybe tie up into something at the end, and it's going to essentially be a love letter to Iron Man. You might have found your book. Let's get talking about all the good stuff after we talk about who made this comic book. So this is Chapter 1, Hero. Murewa Aodel on writing. Dotun Akande on art. VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. Cover art, also Dotun. And there's a variant cover out there. Actually, there are 2 variant covers out there. All right, and of course, Iron Man was created by Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, and Don Heck, and Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby really just did the cover. For the original Iron Man, it was Don Heck, one of the rare comics that he would actually draw all the time. But he did, of course, use the layouts for Jack Kirby's original design, but it is what it is. Anyway, guys, this was actually really good. I like the beginning where he's got his 60th birthday, even though he doesn't look 60 at all. But it's the future, so heck, it could be anything. But now the 60 years of Iron Man, I'm really digging on this. So we're going to start off with Iron Man wearing his Mark I uniform, the gray one. I know later on it would be the Mark I was also considered the gold one, that he just spray painted it, but that actually wasn't the case. He genuinely did upgrade it, so retroactive my butt. The gold one is the Mark II. But either way, this is completely separate from that. This is the Mark I. It's gray. He's out there trying to fight people, and all of a sudden he gets like, it gives you the impression that he'd been sucked under the ground not too long ago. But he's able to escape. He breaks out from under the ground, and much like the Black Sabbath song Iron Man, I am Iron Man, he just comes bursting from out of the ground. Everybody's like, oh crap! He's like, run! They're like, way ahead of you. So they start moving, and if he's having trouble getting out of the ground, that changes really quick, because like 10 giant fists come punching him from out of the ground, pick him up. They got these big, and this is where I really like Dotun's art. He's got a very specific style where he has the ability to do, just look at the first image on here, the first panel, really great stuff, but he tries to keep his art and his action scenes simple as he can. These big, giant, almost faceless, globule type monsters. I'm thinking at first, like, is this just Sandman and he's found the ability to make a bunch of buddies that work independent? Like, what's going on here? But it's the past, so it wouldn't have made too much sense, right? That he'd be that powerful. Instead, this is a completely separate being. I think later on they said her name was Jerry. Either way, it gives the joke Jessica Benton. Or Jerrica Benton. I'm like, Jerrica Benton, I know that name. Holy crap. And I looked it up. It's Jem. Jem in the holograms. Nice one. So he does this. I love the idea that it's just old school Iron Man. He doesn't have his repulsors. He doesn't have a whole bunch of stuff that he can do to actually attack people. So he just has a little rock that he uses, and he just flicks it. I love the design. I love these things look, it's funny. All of the art here is going to look overly simple. You actually take a second look at the art and you can see what Dotun is actually doing here. And it's one of the, there are plenty of times where I like art that a lot of people don't like, but I know my first impression of it. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people only get a first impression and they don't bother taking a second look of things. Whatever, it is what it is. You don't like the art, you don't like the art. It's art subjective, right? For me, it takes a moment to really appreciate everything he's doing here. I don't want to overinflate things, but that's also the same thing that people say about Jack Kirby's art, right? Initially, it looks like he's just got crappy art that he's not paying attention to. He doesn't care. It is what it is, whatever, right? And after you like look at it for a while and you see what he's actually doing, he's not trying to just draw pretty art. He's more about drawing the action scenes. You get that. And one of the best ways I was able to get that was from this, I think it's the third page here, where I love this. Iron Man just fires this thing, and maybe it's not a rock because like there's some electrical spark thing. Maybe it's one of his tiny transistors that he used to use way back in the day. But he lands, and you can tell he lands when he does the Iron Man punch landing because it actually says land. This is, if you go back and read like My Grandfather Was a God and some of that, the hell just fell? Oh, business cards. When you go back and read, and I did a review on My Grandfather Was a God, which is a free comic book that Marewa and Doughton had put out. Really fun stuff. If you like Storm, you'll like these stories of the Orisha. So go back and check those out, man. The comics are free. The review is free. Go check them out. But he lands and actually says land. I love these oversimplified onomatopoeias that they use in their stories. Absolutely hysterical. Very basic way of handling these monsters. Oh, and the thing I was going to say about it, you look at certain of the effects, the action scenes, that they're mostly focused on the action and far less focused on the design and the details of what's happening in the, what everything looks like, whatever it is, what it is. But when there's like a no action scene and there's just standing, then you actually see the detail of the character. You can see the eyes and how they're squinted away and they're looking in a certain way, right? You can see the way that, because the art is all done by one person here, you can see the way that the light actually looks like it's blaring. You know what I'm saying? I was actually staring. I was just looking today, I was trying to look up a business, and I saw a Google Street Maps, and I just, for the sake of conversation, I scrolled up in the Google, not Google Earth or satellite, whatever, but the one where you can actually see the street view. There we go. And I looked up and I saw the sun, because I'm just looking at the way that the shadows were. And I looked up at the sun. I'm like, it's funny that even in the picture, the sun looks bright enough where like there's a reflex where it's actually going to hurt your eye. I can see clearly that Doughton gets that, because when you see the light off of Iron Man's chest, you actually see that. And I don't like going into the art so soon, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm going to review the art before I review the actual writing. You can actually see the way that it glows around his chest. You can see it kind of move away. And it's one of those things where it's like, if this guy actually sat around and just focused on colors or just focused on inks or just focused on pencils, whatever, the guy would be, like, he'd be one of the people who's talked about all the time. I expect that at some point people are going to recognize what this guy's actually capable of. Because, again, when he's standing still, you can see what he's doing. But when he's moving, there's not so much focus on the details of the art. I like to take that as he's showing you that there's movement. There's a bit of a blur of movement, right? I dig that. Very simple ways to handle these beasts. These it's almost like, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They'd always send the putties after you first. They would easily handle these putties, right? All except like one issue where we had to realize when what was it, Lord Zed, you have to hit them only in this piece on the chest. Oh, really? The easiest part? I'm surprised they didn't put it between the legs. Got to kick them in the nuts in order to knock them down. Anyway, these guys are just basically giant-sized putties that are very easily disposed of, whether it's in the past, present, or future, or one of the many versions of the present, right? I like how we're gonna move to the writing now. Marewa, he's got this story in the past where Iron Man is able to handle these putties in the past, but Jerry, whatever her name is, who shows up from the far future. So even in the future story here, she's saying that she's from the future. So wow, how much further in the future must she be? And I guess she was never able to beat Iron Man in that future, so she comes in the past to take care of things. But she gets to this point, which is in our past, the origin of Iron Man, like shortly after the origin of Iron Man, I imagine, because he hasn't even spray painted his armor gold yet. And she realizes that, oh crap, I just hit you with a fairly basic attack and you're dying. Right now, you're actually dying. Oh, this is back when the shrapnel was still in your chest and you needed that chest piece in order to stay alive. I'll come back to you later. You'll know. when I'm coming back. Later on in the future, Tony Stark has always survived. He's always found some way to find some place to plug it. And literally, like if you see those old Iron Man comics, he would find a way to plug his armor into some wall outlet, right, in order to get a jump start. It was back in the day, man. Let it go, right? Think about how old these comics are. Back from the 60s, right? The Tales of Suspense. I'm digging how later on in the future, they're showing Iron Man how he's capable of being in different armors at the same time, right? Having his mind over there, or using an AI, or the holographic Tony Stark himself, right? Boom, all over the place. And he's able to handle business, but he's not quite able to finish the job. Then they show the future Iron Man. And this is stuff that I don't think that we're meant to fully understand because it is the far-flung future. I dig the idea. See, a lot of times we'll do a future where, like, think about the original Star Trek and when it was made, and even the Next Generation, all these other versions of Star Trek that they're doing nowadays. Their idea of the future is only what we can fathom today. It has to be a future that we can actually comprehend to this day, right? Here's something where Morewa is taking a chance, and he's giving an explanation of something, barely giving an explanation, but showing a form of combat and technology that Iron Man, that Tony Stark is using, that's not quite so easy to understand. That was my RFID wallet. I'm just going to leave stuff on the floor at this point. Anyway, he's giving us the stuff that we can barely understand. Why? In my understanding, it's because the future shouldn't be that easy to understand. What's the future of AI? We don't know. We're actually using AI, not the way that sci-fi has told us what AI, but actual AI, right? Actual artificial intelligence. And we've been using it for a while, right? When I communicate with my bank online, a lot of times it's just, AI that I'm speaking to, all these different language models, right? This is what AI actually is. It hasn't reached sentience. Will it reach sentience? Are we capable of creating consciousness in something? Highly unlikely. That Bing stuff is just jokes, all right? The Facebook stuff was just, they didn't have a filter on it. It wasn't actually going to take over the world. Like, it's funny stuff, but like I mess around with ChatGPT all the time, and I've understood so much of its limitations, and understanding a thing's limitations allows you to take it just a step beyond to what you actually need it to do. So there's that. But every day almost every day I'm finding out something new that it can do. In the meantime, here's this future that we can barely understand, because we should barely understand the future. It's just like if a UFO landed, they came here. They're far beyond our technology, right? We'd have to reverse engineer what they did just so that we can make the tools in order to take this ship apart. If we could figure out where the edges are and whatnot of a circular disc that's able to maintain. What in the hell? Oh, my foot's on the side of the desk. Let me stop shaking my... Swear to God. Feels like a 2.0 Richter scale earthquake going on here. Anyway, so that was my work phone. They'll replace that. Anyway, I like the idea that this is what they're doing for the future tech. He's able to beat her soundly at this point. We're at the level where he can beat her soundly. So how much weaker is she going to be in the future that she actually comes from? Of course, he's able to handle her every time. What's most interesting about this is the conversation at the end. Far too many times, people try to make Tony Stark the hero. He's not the hero. And this is one of the things I think most people get wrong about Tony Stark. He's not the hero. Think about the article use here, right? There's a and an, right? A banana, an apple, and then there's the. Or and an indicate plethora, plenty, one of many. The typically denotes the one and only. You can make it a little extra special by saying the. You're saying the one and only as opposed to the one and only, but the, right? You are an employee. I am the manager, right? Even if it's one-on-one, I'm the manager, you're the employee, but you're one of many, right? It's the way that we use the English language. Here, when we see Iron Man in the future, actually, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what he does to show that he is self-sacrificing. He's the one to go through the portal and stop the bomb and all that other stuff. Here it actually shows that Iron Man in the future does become, even if not the hero, he is absolutely heroic and self-sacrificing, and he's willing to put others before himself. He's willing to put others before his own family. Much like Mr. Spock, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I mean, right? That's the moment that Spock gave his life. Does Iron Man actually give his life in this? I'm not going to spoil that for you. What I'm going to say is that something is sacrificed. And you could see that, even though I've never seen this character before, we may never see him again. I hope that we do, her. I hope that we do see her again at some point. I hope to see her evolution. This is an actual evil character. And I love the idea of it. Even though they're having fun with her, she is an actual evil character. Because she points out how, but at the same time, maybe she's just young. Maybe she's just testing limits and whatnot. I don't want to get too much into it. I love the dynamic that was made around this character who I've never seen before. And suddenly she becomes somebody who, at the very least, means something to Tony Stark. Not in a good way, but in a way that's very self-actualizing. All in all, this is a comic book that I think that many may look at and just right away discount. I say give it a second look, understand what it's actually doing, the writing and the art. I'm looking forward to the next issue. Guys, that's going to be it from me. Give the video a like and all that. What I said, like the video and watch an ad. And I'll talk to you guys later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.